Border crisis. Government officials seek a closer look at the surge of migrants crossing into the United States. Gun control. Lawmakers debate the best response to recent mass shootings. Religious response. One archbishop responds with prayer and calls for a conversion of hearts. And blocked from church. Why parishioners in one country are being told to stay away from Mass. On EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. The White House keeps saying the southern border is closed, but immigrants keep on coming. And today, President Joe Biden met with top officials at the White House on what to do next as they face heavy criticism for how things are going. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, this afternoon, President Joe Biden said he's putting Vice President Kamala Harris in charge of getting the southern border under control. This as lawmakers visit a facility in Carrizo Springs, Texas, that houses migrant children, and space is filling up fast.
President Joe Biden talks immigration.
So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely.
Earlier, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki gave more details on today's official visit to the southern border, while adding,
Border Patrol facilities are not places where children should be. They are, children should be moving more quickly through those facilities. That is what our policy central focus is right now.
For weeks, the Biden administration blamed the border crisis on the Trump administration, but critics charged the new president's policies. Meanwhile, the pandemic, new daily COVID-19 cases around 55,000, still high, but far better than the 250,000 daily cases once seen. Still,
when I'm often asked, are we turning the corner? My response is really more like we are at the corner. Whether or not we're going to be turning that corner still remains to be seen.
What also remains to be seen is how schools reopen and stay open. Today, a virtual National Safe School Reopening Summit.
But teaching virtually just isn't the same.
The Biden administration says nearly half of the nation's elementary schools were open for full-time classroom learning in February, but most non-white students still learning entirely online.
We know there are inequities to in-person learning. Only 28% of black students are going to school in person daily.
The administration says it's releasing $81 billion from the American Rescue Plan to support the reopening of schools across the country.
This announcement builds on our ongoing efforts to support schools and staff by investing in testing and prioritizing teachers for vaccination.
Also, tomorrow, President Joe Biden holds his first formal news conference. Now, he was criticized for not holding one sooner. However, only 30 reporters are being allowed to attend, so the range of questioning might be limited. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
In the wake of the latest mass shooting in Colorado, debate continues on Capitol Hill over gun control. Both President Biden and Democrats want a gun control bill passed this week, and now they are using a new tactic to get it done. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric?
Well, Tracy, both Republicans and Democrats say that they want to end these shootings across the country and end them now. But Democrats are taking it one step further. And what they're doing is they say in order to be able to get comprehensive gun control passed in the Senate, the filibuster must end as well. Republicans say all Democrats want to do is end any roadblocks that would get in the way of passing their agenda.
Republicans in the Senate are more interested in eroding voting laws and increasing gun rights.
Democratic Congresswoman Veronica Escobar says the House recently passed 2 gun control measures, one banning assault weapons and another strengthening background check loopholes. But the Texas representative says
the problem is in the Senate. Even with a majority, a slim majority, because of the filibuster, it's going to be very, very difficult to get anything done.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer stayed away from questions about filibuster reform, only saying,
I am going to meet with Senator Murphy and other Democrats this week that have been set up already, and we will figure out the best path forward.
The leader did say last week everything is on the table, but not all Democrats are on board. Senator Joe Manchin doesn't agree the filibuster should be touched. Republicans say the filibuster in the Senate makes all voices heard, even the minority, and forces compromise.
What we see from Democrats, however, is that they want to get rid of the filibuster, and what we call that is a power grab.
A power grab that includes passing the $15 an hour minimum wage increase, the Green New Deal, or the Equality Act. Senate Republicans agree gun control measures need to pass, but ones that target criminals.
Democrats propose taking away guns from law-abiding citizens because that's their political objective. But what they propose, not only does it not reduce crime, it makes it worse.
And tomorrow afternoon, Senate Democrats plan to bring to the Senate floor H.R. 8, which would expand background checks for private gun sales. It would prohibit any of the loopholes that would allow domestic abusers or felons from being able to buy guns at private sales, such as at gun shows. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
The Archbishop of Denver prays that God brings out good from the mass shooting in Boulder. Archbishop Samuel Aquila released a statement saying that we must work to promote deeper conversion of hearts so that our lives are characterized by the virtue of charity, which allows us to love God and our neighbor, strengthening the fabric of society and preventing senseless acts of violence such as this one. The Los Angeles Times reports California Governor Gavin Newsom is preparing to name a replacement for Attorney General Xavier Becerra. Last week, Becerra was confirmed as the Secretary for Health and Human Services, and pro-lifers remain troubled by that confirmation. Joining us now is Catherine Hadro, host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Catherine, welcome. Always so great to have you on. So tell us, what has been the pro-life reaction to Secretary Becerra's confirmation? What have you been hearing? And also, is there anything that the pro-life movement can do?
Troubled is the right word. Pro-lifers have been sounding the alarm over Becerra as soon as he was nominated to be HHS Secretary. He is infamous in the pro-life movement. I'll give you a few recent examples. In his previous role as California Attorney General, he went up against pro-life pregnancy care centers at the Supreme Court, arguing they should be forced to advertise for abortions. He then went up against the Little Sisters of the Poor at the Supreme Court over the contraceptive mandate. So I would say he is President Biden's most controversial cabinet pick so far. As soon as he was nominated, pro-life groups really called on Americans to urge their senators to block Becerra in the Senate. Obviously, that did not happen. We saw that very narrow Senate confirmation vote last week. So now it's up to us, Tracy, and the pro-life movement, and as Catholics, to stay vigilant as to what's happening at HHS now that we have this extreme abortion advocate as the head of this largest health agency.
Yeah, and Catherine, as you know, Secretary Becerra is a baptized Catholic, but his record on abortion certainly is not reflective. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a baptized Catholic, and once a baptized Catholic, always a Catholic, and always the responsibility to uphold the Church's teachings on life. So this is scandalous because his record has directly contradicted the Church's teachings, and I think viewers may be surprised to hear he is Catholic, considering that example I just gave you about him facing off against the Little Sisters of the Poor, a Catholic religious order for living out their Catholic faith. And we saw, Tracy, during his Senate confirmation hearings, Becerra really tried to deflect and diminish his role in that case. And he even brought up the fact that his mother has been praying the rosary for him, which is beautiful, but the fact that his family member is praying does not negate his actions and does not negate his aggressive abortion record, and the fact that he needs to be held accountable to that. So I think, Tracy, we should take this as a reminder that we should continue to pray for his conversion and pray that Becerra one day lives out the fullness of the faith. And I think it really underlines our mission here at EWTN News, Tracy, really reiterates what we are doing and speaking the truth on life and speaking the truth on the Church's teachings to bring clarity amidst this confusion that happens when there are prominent pro-abortion Catholic politicians.
Absolutely, Catherine. We are seeing so much of that right now. Not a lot of time left, but I want to get to this. I do understand that the very day that Secretary Becerra was confirmed, the Biden administration announced that they are working to undo the Protect Life rule. Can you explain that and then talk about the significance?
Yes, I'll give a quick summary. The Biden-Harris administration announced they are going to rework the Title X program to allow abortion businesses, including Planned Parenthood, to once again receive federal family planning dollars through the Title X program. This essentially means, Tracy, that President Biden is now going to be allowing for the taxpayer funding of abortion businesses. This brings it back to the Clinton-era rules. So while it's disappointing, it's not surprising, because not even 100 days into office, we've continued to see President Biden really curry favor with the abortion industry, and this is just the latest example.
All right, Catherine, we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming on. Catherine Hadro, host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Thanks again, Catherine.
Thank you.
Morning Mass at Manila's Cathedral was empty this morning, a day after a government warning. A pastoral instruction for Metro Manila says that limited religious worship would be organized inside churches. It directs against outdoor processions and activities. Germany has reversed plans for a 5-day shutdown over Easter.
Klipp und klar zu sagen, die Idee eines Oster-Shutdowns war mit bester Absicht.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel said in a statement, the idea of an Easter shutdown was designed with the best of intentions because we absolutely must manage to slow down and reverse the third wave of the pandemic. In Israel's elections, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition appears shy of a majority, but residents say his message was a winning one.
I think that there is a very clear message that the right wing principles has won.
Addressing supporters, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed a great achievement short of declaring victory. He called for formation of a stable government to avoid another election. He must now negotiate with rivals to gain seats for a majority. Coming up, academic freedom. Professor Robert George describes the push to protect free speech on campus and why it's so important today. A new initiative seeks to defend free speech for professors on college campuses. The Academic Freedom Alliance was formed earlier this month. The group arose from discussions among faculty at Princeton University on how to counter what they see as growing intolerance towards differing viewpoints. Joining us now, he is one of the faculty members instrumental in the creation of the Academic Freedom Alliance, Professor Robert George, a former professor of jurisprudence and director of the James Madison Program in American Ideals and Institutions at Princeton University. Professor George, welcome back. Always so great to be with you. As National Review noted earlier this month, it's one thing to complain about cancel culture, but it's another to fight it. Tell us, how will your group work to combat cancel culture and also preserve free speech?
Our group is an alliance of professors from across the country and from across the ideological spectrum. There are people on the conservative side, people on the progressive or liberal side, people in the center, and then the people that I call the non-classifiables. But we are united under the principle that we borrowed from Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, and that is the principle that we will regard an attack on one as an attack on all. We'll defend free speech for everyone on campus by vowing that if someone comes under attack for the legitimate expression of their opinions, and a mob forms, whether it's on Twitter or other social media, whether it's on the campus, to demand unjustified disciplinary action against that person, we will stand with that person. We will make sure that that person is supported both morally and from our legal defense fund financially in case legal support is needed. Academics often can't afford the kind of costs that are involved with litigation, and that means that often their rights, when they come under attack, go undefended. We want to stop that. We want to rectify that situation so that a message can be sent to university administrators that if you cave to the outrage mob and violate the principle of academic freedom on which the truth-seeking ministry or truth-seeking mission of colleges and universities so vitally depends, you're going to pay a price for that. You're going to pay a price in court if necessary.
Can you talk about your Catholic faith and the role that it plays for you, as far as defending free speech?
Sure. Of course, the Academic Freedom Alliance is an alliance of people of many, many different faiths and shades of belief, people who are believers, people who are not believers. I myself am a Catholic, and so part of my motivation is rooted in my faith. And my faith teaches me that truth-seeking is one of the essential parts of our human nature. It's an aspect of our well-being and fulfillment, seeking the truth for its own sake. And another thing that is emphasized, especially in the Second Vatican Council, I would point especially to the document Dignitatis Humanae on religious freedom, is the importance of freedom as a condition of the truth-seeking enterprise. We cannot seek the truth about God and about man and about God's relationship to man and about the important things of life, important values, issues of morality and justice. We cannot truly seek those apart from the freedom that we have to enjoy in order to ask the questions, answer them honestly, live by our best lights with integrity and authenticity in light of our best judgments. So it's in part my own Catholic faith in my particular case that motivates me to stand up for and protect the freedoms that we need for the truth-seeking mission, both the mission of individual scholars as our vocation. Truth-seeking is what we do. It's what guides our lives. And the truth-seeking mission of universities, institutions that are devoted to scholarly research and teaching for the sake of the truth.
Robbie, I want to switch gears just a little bit here, and I want to talk about freedom of the press. Some say it's now being restricted under the Biden administration with the lack of transparency and access at the U.S.-Mexico border. What's your take on that, and what's at stake when we do restrict the press?
Well, here we have to be careful. I mean, our founding fathers were very clear, and they were very right in saying that an unrestricted press is essential to the functioning of Republican government, self-government, what we today call democracy. The people can't rule themselves, govern themselves, determine their own fates without the information that they need in order to make good decisions. And when government blocks access to that information, it puts us in jeopardy. It puts our Republican form of government in jeopardy. Now, there are sometimes legitimate reasons, Tracy, for government to restrict access from media and others to sensitive information and activities. And we've got to honor that. We have to not treat every government restriction as if it's a grave violation of freedom of the press. But we have to be very vigilant in ensuring that no pretext is being invoked here, that the restrictions on access are not a pretext for the government operating out of sight and disabling us from having the information that we need in order to make good decisions. And the problem with some of the Biden administration policies down at the border is they don't smell very good. It looks like they're not passing the smell test. They're looking more like pretexts to restrict access to information for political and ideological reasons than good faith needs for confidentiality or blocking access to the media so that the government can effectively accomplish the mission that we have government to do. So it's a question of whether there's a real justification or whether we've got a pretext here. Things are not looking good.
Okay, well, Professor Robert George, thank you so much for coming on. We always appreciate your time. Up next, saving money. The Holy Father announces a plan to cut costs at the Vatican. And help in the time of need. Pope Francis offers praise to Mary during the pandemic. Pope Francis has appointed a survivor of clergy abuse in Chile to the Vatican's Commission on Protecting Minors. Juan Carlos Cruz will serve a 3-year term. Cruz says that he will work to end the scourge of abuse and to find justice for survivors. In a money-saving measure at the Vatican, Pope Francis says that he will trim the salaries of cardinals by 10%. It is one way the Holy Father is trying to cut costs. The Holy See has a projected budget deficit this year of $60 million. fathers. The Vatican hosted a 4-hour online event last night on how to pursue a global ceasefire. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, says we are called to transform instruments of hatred to instruments of peace. Among the topics in the discussion were interreligious dialogue and how to prioritize the needs of the poor. Joining us now is Alessio Pecorario, coordinator of the Security Task Force of the Vatican COVID-19 Commission. Alessio, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us, what concrete actions does the Vatican suggest to arrive at a global ceasefire?
I would say mainly two ingredients. The first ingredient is cooperational international norms and best practices that are all part of the mosaic of a proper multilateral system, which we are all called to reinforce. The second ingredient is ecumenical and interreligious dialogue. And to give you a concrete example, yesterday we hosted a webinar titled Advancing Integral Disarmament in Times of Pandemic, where we heard from experts on peace building and security in dialogue with religious experts, with religious representatives from many traditions, proposals, initiatives, concrete initiatives on campaigns to freeze weapon production and dealing, to support the Nuclear Ban Treaty and other international treaties on arms control, support educational peace processes. And this is, of course, just part of the mandate of the indication that Pope Francis has led us to lead the Vatican COVID-19 Commission, which is listen, connect and inspire. Experts, religious, civil society groups, inspire who? Political leaders that can support our initiatives.
What are some of the obstacles in promoting disarmament?
I think the real question here is how we define the security, because normally we consider security as the security for the state. There is an urgent need to focus on the security of the people. When we focus on the security of state, normally we think to elements like the armaments or the rhetoric, military rhetoric, the modernization of arsenals, especially nuclear, while the security of people is made of access to healthcare system, is made of food security, is made of jobs. We are living the most serious crisis, humanitarian and socio-political crisis after the World War II.
Alessio, we don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to ask you this. As you know, building trust among nations really is not easy. How can that be done? How can it be accomplished?
I think that the trust, the most important element of trust is that we have an urgent need to share cooperative approach to security and to peace building, to foster human security at the heart of our effort. Religions can be very helpful in that, because at least conceptually they have a couple of advantages. An advantage in terms of time, because they link by nature on the transcendent, and so they have forward-looking look on the history, on the economics and the politics. In terms of space, since the main problems, the main challenges of our times, the pandemics, the migration, the wars, the climate change, transcend the national borders, at the same time, religions transcend national borders as well, so they can foster dialogue and be an active, have an active role at the diplomatic level to engage and restore the level of trust, internationally speaking, at the world level.
Alessio Pecorario, coordinator of the Security Task Force of the Vatican COVID-19 Commission, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
I thank you in turn, Tracy. This has been an honor and a pleasure, as I was saying.
And finally tonight, Pope Francis says Our Lady is close to us during the pandemic, especially to those who feel alone.
Maria è sempre lì, accanto a noi, con la sua tenerezza materna.
At his weekly talk at the Vatican, the Holy Father said the Church praises Mary as the Son praises his mother, saying Jesus entrusted the Virgin Mary as a mother to his disciples, and from then on, we have always been under the care of her mantle. We thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.